We're live now to Adelaide, where authorities are giving an update.
What we know is that the people of the Adelaide Hills, like so many other people and communities across South Australia, are very resilient. This is an extraordinarily tough time for them, and we as a government will be standing shoulder to shoulder with them. We've already set up the emergency relief centres. We've been able to negotiate with the federal government overnight to put the emergency relief packages in place, offering $700 per family who have been unable to return to their properties, or in fact if they have been able to and their properties have been wiped out. Obviously there's a lot of work to do in the coming days and the coming weeks. I would like to sincerely thank all of our emergency services workers in South Australia, the CFS, the MFS, the South Australian ambulance officers. Can I thank also the State Emergency Service, which of course is doing a lot of the work at the moment to support our firefighters on the front line and to help with the clean-up which is occurring. There are so many people who are lending support at this extraordinarily difficult time. And now to provide further details with regards to the situation, I'm going to invite the Police Commissioner, Grant Stevens, to provide some detail, and then we'll move to Mark Johns, the Chief of the CFS in South Australia. Commissioner.
Thank you, Premier. Mark Jones will provide some specific detail about the fire event itself and the activities that are currently underway. But I'd like to stress that this has been determined to be a major bushfire in the Cuddly Creek area, and it is still active and uncontrolled. This is the incident that the South Australia Police are most concerned about at this time. There is another fire on Kangaroo Island which is of significant concern. But in terms of the impact on community, we are putting our focus on the fire known as the Cuddly Creek Fire in the Adelaide Hills. We've instigated our major bushfire investigation plan, and we've instigated a task force which will be run through our Major Crime Investigation Branch to look at the circumstances surrounding the fire, the incidents of property damage and of course the fatality and other injuries that have occurred as a result of this particular fire. The cause at this stage remains undetermined, but at this point in time we do not believe there are any suspicious circumstances relating to the fire. I'm also able to advise that there are currently 27 Tier 1 road closures in place. Tier 1 road closures mean only emergency services personnel are able to enter those particular locations. If members of the public attempt to enter those areas, they will be turned away, regardless of whether they are property owners or business owners, and this is for very specific reasons around safety. At this point, safety issues arise because of the risk of fire damage, or where trees close to the roadway have not yet been inspected in terms of the risk of them falling onto the roadway whilst people are in their vicinity. We'll be assessing those Tier 1 road closures on an hourly basis and opening roads as we can and as soon as we can. It's also worth pointing out that the local government and SES are doing significant work to clear those roads and to enable access so people can go and inspect their properties and take care of livestock and other matters that they need to attend to. We also have a significant number of tasks in relation to checking on the welfare of individuals in the area affected by the fire, and we have a dedicated team of police officers who are working with CFS now to visit those properties or make contact with homeowners or residents to ensure their welfare, and that's an ongoing task that will be occurring throughout the day and continue until such time as we are satisfied that we've made contact with all of those people that we have concerns about. Thank you, and I'll now hand over to Mark Jones.
Yesterday, the state of South Australia endured record temperatures and fire danger ratings following a long, dry spell. Over 100 fires started before lunchtime, and by the middle of the day, over 500 firefighters and nearly 30 aircraft were in the field. One of the main CFS airfields at Claremont was affected by the fire to the extent that my officers had to evacuate the aircraft and the airfield, relocating to other airfields for the afternoon. We called upon aerial tankers from New South Wales and Victoria, but unfortunately the weather conditions were so severe yesterday afternoon we had to ground them for a period. But by late afternoon, the entire air fleet was up and bombing fires actively. The Cuddly Creek fire burned throughout the day yesterday and remains our most serious event. It had burned 25,000 hectares by 8 o'clock this morning. Firefighting and damage assessments will continue in that area for some days. CFS crews have been bolstered this morning by crews from Metropolitan Fire Service, who have sent 3 strike teams to assist in that area. At this point, the communities most impacted are Gumaraka and Birdwood, although the fire has passed through many other communities in the Adelaide Hills. Fire crews worked extremely well yesterday and through the night to gain control of large fires at Angle Vale, Maitland, Lamoureux and Melrose, as well as over 100 others. Late yesterday afternoon, the change, which was accurately predicted, passed over the state, causing a number of simultaneous fires to commence due to dry lightning storms. The resultant storm caused 8 fires to simultaneously propagate on Kangaroo Island. Regrettably, it seems a number of our people have been injured. Reports are 23 firefighters suffering various injuries yesterday, one of whom is serious and remains in hospital for treatment. 3 CFS trucks were burned out yesterday. Against the catastrophic conditions and the backdrop of unprecedented challenge, it's remarkable that so few of the firefighters and emergency responders were injured, and I'm grateful that none seem to have been terribly so. The fire on Kangaroo Island is expected to burn for some days, and it's burning in the Coleman and Cooper divisions. Thankfully, the conditions abated somewhat through the evening, allowing crews to stay on top of some of the fires they had controlled and to control others. We will continue to firefight and make safety checks and work closely with our colleagues in SAPOL to ensure people are safe in the community. We will concentrate our efforts on what are considered to be the highest risk areas in the community, and that changes because fire behaviour is dynamic and very weather dependent, which naturally changes itself. We do understand the wishes of people who've evacuated from areas which have been affected to want to get back into their homes, and we hope they can understand that we want them to be safe as they do so. Falling trees represent a significant threat to people as they go back to areas which have been fire affected. Your safety is our priority. The precautionary total fire ban enacted on Wednesday had a good impact, and without it, many more fires might have resulted yesterday. I thank people across the state for their tolerance and adherence to the ban which was enacted. Yesterday's events and the tragic events in New South Wales in which 2 firefighters lost their lives remind us all that firefighting is an innately dangerous activity. Emergency responders nonetheless respond to the field to try and help the people of South Australia, and I paid tribute to everyone, not just the firefighters but all of their partners, all of the paid staff and everyone else who made it such a community effort yesterday to keep people safe and to help them in their time of need. We bitterly regret all losses of lives, and in events like these, it's likely that more will become aware of more property losses as we move through the day. But I hope that the crews continue to remain safe and you continue to carry our messages of safety to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And I would also like to pay our respects and thanks to the more than 1,500 firefighters that have been out on the fire front protecting South Australia, and all the emergency service crews that have been out there doing that work over the past 24 hours or so. I would ask too that the community respects that this work does continue, and please heed the advice of the emergency service workers. Follow their directions because it is still an unsafe time out there in a number of locations. So take that advice from the emergency service workers. Can I also say that this is a wake-up call to the whole of the state, to anyone living in an area where there is the potential for bushfires. There will be more dry, hot times over the coming weeks and months as we work our way through summer, and we need to make sure that everyone is vigilant. We ask again that everyone has a bushfire action plan and they know when to call it into action, and they do so appropriately. This is a great time for people to really take stock around their home, make sure they have cleared out the scrub around their house, make sure that they have cleared out their gutters and that they are as protected as they could possibly be. Thank you.
Questions, please?
Chief John, do you mind just going through the exact figures in terms of how many firefighters have been on the ground across South Australia during this series, and how many trucks, how many from interstate?
1,500 firefighters in total have been deployed in the 24 hours. That equates to around 50 to 60 trucks. Sorry, I correct myself. that equates to over 400 trucks in the field yesterday, a number of which have been damaged, of course.
And do we have any idea in terms of people who have been taken to hospital? I know you said 28 firefighters, but in terms of civilians?
23 firefighters. I don't have all the details of civilians in that we don't transport them.
Okay. Does anyone know roughly the figures?
As the fire chief said, 23 firefighters. We've had 2 police officers who have sustained smoke inhalation injuries, and I understand at this point in time there are 29 members of the public who have been transported by South Australian Ambulance as a result of activities in and around the fire ground.
Do you have an idea of their age range?
No, no.
Is there any more information on the death of the person at Charleston?
This is very early stages of the investigation. We have police officers on scene now. We have confirmed there is a deceased person. And obviously I'm sure you can appreciate that there's a lot of work to be done at this point in time, and we're continuing to search the surrounding area to ensure that there are no other people who have lost their lives.
You say the cause is undetermined at this stage, but it's not suspicious. Are there any inklings as to what may have sparked this?
Indications are at this stage that it may have been a tree on power lines, but that is unconfirmed at this point, but it does lead us to conclude preliminarily that it is not a suspicious fire.
Is there anyone unaccounted for?
As I mentioned, we are undertaking substantial efforts to check on the welfare of numerous people who made contact with our 131444 line. There are obviously factors that prohibit us from being able to deploy patrols in the first instance until we can do so safely. So we're now going through the process of visiting those people and making contact by phone where we have phone service, and establishing that their welfare is okay.
And how many of those people are there that you're checking on?
We have in the order of about 90 to 100 properties or calls that we're following up on.
Mark,
And that'll occur throughout the course of today.
Mark, what's the plan over the next few days for the CFS, and is there anything on the weather horizon that causes you concern?
Over the next few days, the temperatures will go back up again, but we're not forecasted to have extreme or catastrophic conditions for the next few days going over to Christmas. So our operations will be to protect assets as best we can, protect the public as best we can, and keep our crews as safe as we can.
You've downgraded it to a watch and act now. Is that, though, a fluid situation?
Of course, yeah. The weather does change, and local conditions can change, particularly up in the hills where a gully breeze can blow and fan the flames. So we remain vigilant too, and we'll keep pushing information out to the community as best we can.
And Chief Jones, in terms of the Angle Vale fire that destroyed a house there in Hillier, how dangerous was that it came so close to those northern suburbs' homes?
All of the fires yesterday had the potential to be dangerous, and a number of them passed by conurbations where fire crews prevented them from damaging the houses. That's not the only fire which threatened homes yesterday, and the crews in the field did a magnificent job.
Do you have any idea of the cause of that fire at this stage?
No, I don't.
One questions, please. Are resources that were sent into state to help out returning to Adelaide now, or are they already back in place?
They're currently still interstate. We were able to put the resources we needed in the field yesterday. You have to remember we have 67 people in New South Wales. We have 13,000 volunteers in the state who all responded magnificently when called yesterday.
Mr Premier? You've got a long planned New Zealand holiday that's going to start, say, over the next couple of days. Is that going to change?
Look, my focus at the moment is not on my Christmas holidays. It's trying to make sure we get through this difficult period. Thank you very much.
I was going to ask you, if you've got a moment, how many calls have been made for that emergency relief fund?
No, I don't have that information. The relief centres were set up yesterday. People can go online or go to the relief centre for the emergency relief, which is the $700 per family. This is really money to get them through the first day or so when they're not able to return to their home. They might need to get some emergency accommodation or buy some meals or toiletries. And then, of course, we will have the rapid damage assessment report, and we'll have further relief to announce in the coming weeks.
Is there any details on that community meeting that's planned for today? Is there any information of when that will happen and where it will happen?
We don't have it. We'll put it out.
No.
Thank you very much, John.
Stephen Marshall, the South Australian Premier, the police and also the CFS, they're giving us an update on the situation across the state. 23 firefighters have been taken to hospital battling more than 100 blazes. We'll, of course, keep you updated on South Australia later today.